Doctor. It's really my grave for your secrets as well as my own.
I am the newly appointed chief physician of the Sheraton Asylum. It is my noble duty to restore this ailing institution to its once former grandeur. I hope you will not accuse me of grandiosity if I suggest that Sheraton is my France, and I am her Napoleon.
Oh, it's a metaphor most fitting.
The ministry has granted me this post because, in its generous estimation, I am a staunchly moral man of impeccable character and iron resolve. My wife, on the other hand, is less so.
Oh, dear.
She has a frivolous nature and boundless appetites which render her, prone to inconstancy.
So many women are, Doctor. Their constitutions are not so fully evolved as our own. What they call praise seduction is very good. You or I catch a summer cold.
I've often been tempted to chain her to the heel or secure a cowbell around her neck so that I can be kept alert of her whereabouts.
Many a man has been forced to enforce worse measures in the name of fidelity.
Well, I was delighted to accept this post in the provinces. She was loath to leave Paris. I forced her to abandon all she holds most dear. Her art teacher, her gardener, and a frisky little footman named Hercule.
But she followed you here, son Maurice, nonetheless. Perhaps she favors her husband after all.
It was bribery, not steadfastness, that brought her here, monsieur. I promised her a chateau to rival Fontainebleau.
Hence my influence.
You must construct a home of such great design, so full of beauty and diversion that she's never inclined to leave it.
I've spent the entire morning in pursuit of that very end.
And?
Well, I'm afraid your wife is as extravagant as she is charming. When I suggest granite for the foyer, she's quick to come to have a Peruvian model. The tapestries that she prescribed for your boudoir are no less than spun gold. And the tiny set that she fancies is inlaid with bone, carved from the antler of a rare species of elk common only to the Himalayas.
Oh, so that's the price she extorts for fealty.
The price of the gardens alone can bankrupt a man.
Spend what you must.
But excuse me for saying it, sir, but your resources are fine.
I'm well aware of my own finances.
The cost of lumber.
Whatever you require, I'll provide.
Pardon me, Doctor. I mean no offense.
Then my marriage is at stake here, Monsieur Kirby. If my wife runs rampant in San Maurice, the ministry will call my very competence into question. I can just hear them now. We've entrusted 500 madmen to his care. How can he keep the lunatics at bay if he can't even harness his own wife?
Excuse me for saying it, sir, but I never dreamed to demand of your pragmatism and reserve to be so swayed by a woman's influence.
She's a rare bird, Monsieur Louis. I intend to keep her caged.
I must see the doctor at once!
What the devil?
That's now the duty call.
It's more than calls, Monsieur. It's screeches.
It's beyond urgent! It's dire. I beseech you, doctor, let me speak.
But, madame, I do not even know you. It is customary to write first, requesting an appointment.
Desperation has driven me past delicate, headlong into frenzy.
My schedule is not subject to the whims of lunatics.
I beg to differ, doctor. You work in a madhouse. Your every waking moment is governed by the insane.
Shall I call for the guard and have you removed?
You have a choice. Hear me out. Or watch as I curdle and die before you, a victim of my own cancerous grief. Denied its expression, I will surely be poisoned by it and collapse at your feet, a spent cipher, a corpse.
Excuse us a moment, won't you, Monsieur Louis?
But of course.
I beg, be succinct.
I have fallen prey to yet another abomination in this unending cavalcade of woe which I am doomed to call my life.
No,
You are new to Cheriton, are you not?
I am.
But perhaps you are not yet familiar with my husband and his unusual case.
He is a patient here, I presume.
Quite.
His name.
I cannot bring myself to say, Doctor. Its process is so here.
Oh! With all due respect, madame, all of France is familiar with your husband.
No one knows reputation better than I, Doctor.
I presume you've come to plead for clemency on his behalf.
Oh, you do?
I'm afraid I can offer nothing more than sympathy. I have strict orders in a writ signed by Napoleon himself to contain the man indefinitely.
It is my dearest hope, Doctor, that he remain entombed forever, that he be deprived of all human contact, and when at last he perishes in the dank bowels of your institution, he be left as carrion for the rodents and the worms.
I stand corrected, madame.
I have paid in blood, sir, for the mere fact I am his wife and he my husband.
I see.
I don't know which has plagued me more, his grotesque resume of crimes or their notoriety. When he mutilated that poor beggar, her backside flew like a pastry shell. No one was more mortified than I. His orgy in the schoolyard, those pitiful children, that lethal pox will it rent the fabric of my heart. But I was no less moved when on a country weekend in Chambéry, our hostess, upon learning I was his spouse, spat a mouthful of Côte de Rhone upon my breast. In that moment, all his cruelties coalesced into the single liquid projectile issuing from her lips.
Ironic as it may seem, moral outrage often finds its expression in this gesture.
Everywhere I go, the same scenario ensues. The other evening in the opera, I was seated in my box, a few scant meters from the stage. In the midst of her aria, the soprano spotted my face in the crowd. She stopped mid-note. The orchestra ceased its play, and the diva cried, "Look! Here in our midst, Satan's bride!" Slowly, 1,000 opera glasses turned to stare in my direction. I bolted to the door. Stricken, I hauled myself to the nearest church. There I pleaded for absolution from my husband's sins. When I left, the very pew in which I sat was yanked from the floor by a trio of priests and thrown into the courtyard. There they intoned the sacred rite of exorcism. They burned the very wood I had sullied with my behind. Doctor, forgive my hysteria, but I am a woman plagued.
Be careful, Marquise. Women who take to screaming in these halls often end up in leg iron.
I am no stranger to such contraptions, Doctor.
Oh, you too fell prey to his appetites?
It is though my body were his conscience in corporeal form, scarred beyond all repair.
What specifically compelled you to pay this visit today, Marquis?
I dared hope my husband's incarceration would allow him to fade from the country's memory. I could then find freedom in his obscurity. Oh, to take tea again, to be invited on the garden strolls, to once again know the unfettered glory of walking down the street without insult, without falling to breathe.
I wish it for you, Marquis.
But something prevents this happy turn of events.
What exactly?
Are you aware, sir, of the charge which precipitated my husband's latest arrest?
I am. He authored a scandalous novel, a tale so pornographic it drove men to murder and women to miscarry.
And are you further aware that now, even within these fortified chambers, his writing continues unchecked? What? Charrington provides the haven most agreeable to his muse. Endless hours to write without interruption, save for his meals. Stacks of paper at his disposal, rivers of ink, and always a ready quill.
I assure you, madame, this is the first I've heard of such goings-on.
I thought my husband had been placed here at Charrington in lieu of prison so that he could be cured of his corrosive habit.
I recognize our failing. I even know its cause.
Yes?
It pains me to admit that our reputation is one of laxity. A certain Abbé de Courrier, administrator here, has a constitution more suited to nursing babies than tending the insane. He has removed the wicker dummy, the wire cage, the straitjacket, tools which many consider essential to our trade. with watercolor exercises, musical interludes, even Maribel.
I had no idea that art offered salvation from madness. I was of the opinion that most artists saw themselves quite deranged.
Exactly why the ministry has appointed me to this post, to enforce a more stringent atmosphere.
I pray that for your sake and mine you succeed at your assigned task.
Oh, it's not so easily done, madame. We require blacksmiths to forge new shackles, a battalion of guards, thumbscrews and pillories. Our resources are already quite strained.
That is your word, sir, not mine.
On the contrary, madame. If you were perhaps to buttress your treaties with perhaps the means to oblige them.
I am not a wealthy woman.
Madame, your husband's legal records routinely cross this desk. Is it not true that the recent sale of his mansion at the cost has left you with a sudden windfall?
A trifling nest egg, hardly a fortune.
If you are truly determined to step out of the long, dark shadow of your husband's celebrity.
Oh, but I am.
Words alone are insufficient.
It's beyond perversity that honor should carry a price tag.
Picture it. A summer's picnic. Lemon strewn. An array of succulents. Old friends dating once again. To kiss your hand, my marquise. Enchanté. Welcome back from the long, dark descent into the abyss of infamy.
Don't toy with me, doctor.
Now is the time to secure your epitaph. René Pélagie de Montreuil. Or Satan's bride.
Name it, and the figure shall be yours.
Might I suggest that we keep our newfound understanding in confidence? Of course. Far be it from me to press the
You may
matter.
expect my lawyer later this afternoon. I trust that together you'll arrive at commensurate sums.
Oh, I'm eternally in your debt.
And I in yours. Oh, doctor.
Please.
Can I impart to you his cruelest trait?
Please.
Once, long ago, in the folly of youth, he made me love him.
Oh, my sympathies, madame.
Tell me, truthfully, were my maligned character stretched so long upon the rack of ignominy, ever regain its natural shape?
Do take heart, madame. How suddenly such happiness looms! The ministry informs me that the Marquis falls under your exclusive dominion.
My brethren found him too taxing a patient. A few of the priests were so dispirited they left the order. Father Coupra is a chimney sweep. Father Lely slaughters pigs in Provence. And the late Father Bouffier is rumored to have buried himself alive rather than to minister to the Marquis in hopes of achieving martyrdom through less rigorous means.
And you?
I welcome the challenge.
Tell me, what is the Marquis's current regimen?
Rest, seclusion, a frigid bath, and twice a week he takes the baby.
He's never once been bled, consigned to the pit, borne the weight of the iron mask.
Forgive my impertinence, doctor, but you are a learned man, so perhaps you can enlighten me. How does inhumane treatment produce a civilized demeanor? The methods you cite are no less than medieval. I would not visit them upon a dog.
And the effect of your preferred prescription?
The Marquis no longer roars or spits. He no longer scarifies his skin. His appetite is solid and his sleep sound.
And his prose?
Even a man in the most advanced stages of mental decay is, I think, still entitled to a modicum of privacy. While I permit him the privilege of his writing exercises, I do not take it upon myself to read them.
And yet he might be the surest barometer of his progress!
Given his newfound docility and reserve, I wouldn't be surprised if his prose once bright with the stench of indecency, now borders on the liturgical.
A generous soul.
He is a walking placard for the humanitarian strategists in our hospitals, our asylums, even our Bastilles.
And I'm sure you won't be offended if I tell you that to affirm the Marquis's recovery, I requested a thorough search of his quarters.
The results, I trust, were unexceptional.
On the contrary, it yielded some rather alarming contraband. 2 razors, a purse filled with salt, a wooden prod, newly greased, and a small iron vice grip of indeterminate usage.
I am no less than stunned, Doctor.
However, these knickknacks are of minimal concern as they pose no threat to the asylum's general population. However, stashed under a floorboard, we found this, a manuscript, some 1,200 pages, ready for printing.
Another? So soon?
I defy you in the name of God, promise in all that you hold moral and true, to read it unmoved.
Dear reader, it now calls upon me, your chaperone to the dark waters of the soul, to impart a tale of such mirthless cruelty and moral torpor that I can barely bring my voice above a whisper. So come, perch upon my knee so you don't miss a word.
Gird yourself, that's mere preamble.
On a craggy cliff, outside the city of Marseille, there stood a monastery of most sinister design. To the gullible eye, its windowless facade suggested a simplicity well suited to modest worship. The true reason for its austerity was far greater. To conceal from the world at large the atrocities occurring within. It was here our young hero first sprang into the world, born of a defrocked priest and a wayward nun. Once the baby was freed from his mother's sin-ripened womb, its parents were duly skewered for their offenses. Bereft and wailing, the child was alone. His only parent was the church. His only playmate, its grim practitioner. Soon he blossomed into boyhood. On his chin, soft down, and between the orbs of his dimpled ass, a blushing rosebud begging to be plucked. Would that he were carrying the vulture. Would that he were a quivering fawn trapped in a lion's gaze. Would that he were anything but a comely boy surrounded by priests.
I can smell his incipient odor, Doctor.
What is that?
Blasphemy. The last refuge that they failed to walk into.
Just wait, he brings new vigor to an old standard.
So great was his beauty, so pungent was his youth, that the black-robed friars had christened him with the name Ganymede. The youth soon became unsurpassed in the field of debauchery. Oh, dear reader, what evils a man can commit when reason demurs to lust. For these were Ganymede's teachers, an ancient monk so withered and limp that fritage was his highest aspiration. An archbishop whose aperture was so fetid and of such slack diameter that it resembled the seat of an untended privy more than any human home.
Oh, look at me. I am awash in perspiration.
A lapsed prelate, who when Ganymede felt nature's rustlings, insisted that he use his gaping maw as his receptacle.
Okay.
And most atrociously, a Viennese cardinal and his participatory horse.
Participatory?
Picture that.
Oh, nature herself was never more beautiful.
Ganymede weathered these requests with the cool detachment of one already dulled by life's demands. He had no time to pursue the twin luxuries of faith and piety. His only aim was to survive. And to do so, he knew he must offer up his flesh, naked on a plate. for the frantic lapping of 100 unholy tongues. This is what a life spent in the bosom of the church had taught him.
Endless pages of philosophy.
No God, blah, blah. A dominion from force, blah, blah. The inevitability of chaos, blah, blah.
What of the boy's end?
Swept away by the story, are
It
you?
was necessary to know his fate to gain the full measure of the Marquis's depravity.
Page 73, I folded the corner.
Soon Ganymede was adopted by the Duc de Blanchy, a rank old pedophile with a penchant for guttery. What sort of skin you have, cooed the Duke, when the boy lay exposed before him. So warm, so suitable for lechery. I will not have him wrinkle or coarse, and rather I'll preserve it sheen forever. And with that, the Duke uncorked a vial of linseed oil, and he dribbled it over the child's new body, filling each crevice, each moist valley, until Ganymede shone like an eel. And then he wrapped the boy in freshly harvested donkey hide. Here you'll stay, the Duke commanded, until you've absorbed each drop. Only then will we commence with our debauch. Accustomed to the most vile abuses, the boy found such treatment a happy respite. The hide was warm and soft, and daily the Duke fed it the most astonishing foods: marzipan, hot-sugared pastries, cream-filled cakes, and glacés. Mon Dieu, sighed the boy, I could live this life forever. Soon, however, Ganymede realized the appalling truth.
What cruel twist has the Marquis in store?
The calculating Duke cannot cure the enveloping hide, and so is the boy's body, gorged with dessert, grew swollen like a great pink bladder. Its casing began to shrink. Dear God, please beseech the boy, split the hide so I might breathe free. The Duke merely laughed and silenced his victim with a few spoonfuls of mousse. And the boy could suffocate or swallow, so swallow he did, increasing his girth and thereby increasing his torment. Soon the child was prepared to strike any bargain. Free me from this leather prison, and you can use me as your slave. Don't you see, little one, purred the Duke, my delectation has already begun. In time, Ganymede's back arched in a circle, and his shoulders now. He felt his rib cage close upon itself, like a lady's purse that shut at the opera. And with that, the Duc de Blanchy released his loins, the hot seas of his tumescence spiraling through the air like molten lava from some belching volcano.
Enough!
That's just the first chapter.
Already he's cataloged every known vice and some hitherto unknown.
That's followed by 1,157 pages more. Astonishing. Imagine if this wound its way among the inmates.
I'd sooner introduce a match to Tinder.
The man is licentious, turpitudinous, and prolific. And to think that only moments ago you labeled him a triumph of rehabilitation.
I am driven to distrust my own capacity for judgment.
You treat him like a man. Nay, therein lies your error. In faculties, he's nothing but an errant child. Every time you coddle him, you invite more of his dark mischief. Don't you see? He's just begging to be strung up by the toes.
It chills me to think, Doctor, that our institution might perpetuate the very horrors the Marquis himself so painstakingly describes.
What is most reassuring to the lunatic? The sight of the shackles waiting for him. It's like a balm to his uneasy mind. In them he sees the architecture of all civilization.
I implore you, do not consider that I negate my principles, please. Let me continue in my charitable course.
Understand that his reformation is an urgent priority.
I will do all that I can.
Do more! Otherwise, I shall be forced to report to the ministry that the inmates are indeed running the asylum.
try them in my closet, knowing it was your fingers which drove the needle through their membrane.
Someday I'll use that same needle to sew your mouth shut.
Promises, promises.
I'm allowed to collect a few extra loops. When it's personal effects I'm repairing.
Would that these coins purchased your other tablets, too?
That's not all. There's something else I want from you.
You've already stolen my heart, as well as another more prominent organ, south of the equator.
Mother says I'm not to leave without a story.
A voracious reader, your mother.
She's so blind. I found all the line long ago. Soaking sheets for lunatics cost the poor lady her sight. I read it to her.
Oh.
Every night about 8. We sit at the table and I start reciting from wherever it was with us the night before. Sometimes, when it's a beheading or some broken thing is locked in a dungeon crying for the loss of her chastity, my mother's face goes pale. She sets down her glass and she says,
Yes.
read that part again!
Nothing like a tingle in the battle.
Sometimes I have to slam the book shut just to catch my breath. Mama turns all a twitter, cranks with a delay, and makes me forge on.
When the priests taught you to read, did they foresee your taste in novels?
You're not the only one, mind you. We read Monsieur de la Clos and Louis de Couvray. But when we want a good scare, says Mama, make it the Marquis.
Do I frighten you now, Madeline?
You? Frighten me? That's a good one. I tell Mama, if you could only see him, you wouldn't tremble so at his tail. Who'd have thought such a spent body could still boast such a fertile mind?
It's the only frontier I have left, dearest. And what kind of story shall it be tonight?
Something to make our blood run cold and set our cheeks aflame.
Just how bad would you like it to be?
Have all redemption, please.
I have just the manuscript, inspired by these very surroundings. A big tale of an unhappy nursemaid, the darling of the lower wards, where they entomb the hopelessly deranged.
Naughty violence.
Most assuredly.
Terribly erotic.
Fiendishly so!
Remotely blank.
Of course!
Sounds like a fine one.
Oh, but it comes with a price. A kiss for each page.
Why, that's deep.
There are, of course, lesser authors waiting to be read.
Must I administer the kisses directly, or might I blow them?
The price, my coquette, is as firm as my jowl.
You talk things right. It's a long story, this one.
And this, the climax of the story, comes at a higher cost.
That's it.
Sit on my lap.
You can demand a lot from your readers, you fool.
Needless to say, the story's thrilling conclusion comes at a premium.
What would that be, pray tell?
Your maidenhead. And then you must turn your needle and thread upon yourself. Sew it up as tightly as when you were a virgin. Then come back to me renewed, so I can deflower it a second time.
Things belong on paper, hardly do life. Splendid fools can't tell the difference.
Mademoiselle Clark?
You're in the nick of it, Abbe. This little Lutz forgot himself. Thought I was a character in one of his nasty books.
It's those same books which have precipitated my visit here, Marquis.
Half a splash of wine, Abbot.
Here, now, it's not yet new.
Conversations like certain portions of the anatomy always run more smoothly when lubricated.
Why, yes, thank you.
It's a rare vintage from an obscure village in Bordeaux. Or rather than crush the grape underfoot, they place the fruit on the belly of a bride and reap its juices when the young husband steers his vessel into port.
Oh, my.
Swish it gently in the air before tasting. You You could smell the perfume in her hair and the beads of sweat from that nether region called Love's Temple. A full-bodied flavor with just a hint of wantonness.
As you know, most esteemed Marquis, the staff has done its utmost to render you comfortable here.
It's true, dear heart, you spoiled me pink.
A canopy bed in lieu of a straw mat, an ample library including the latest medical volumes as per your request, a settee of yellow blue-check velvet, and a portrait of your very own father painted in miniature upon an ivory horn. And, lest we forget, a well-stocked supply of paper with enough quills to feather an ostrich.
And for these I am most grateful.
We are delighted that Sharrington so readily invokes your views.
Stories tumble from me here faster than I can record them.
This has not escaped our attention. Pleased though I am with your prolificacy, I am afraid I have to place certain censures on your quill, Marquis.
Not content to be my jailer, you're now my editor as well.
From this moment on, I beseech you, your good as well as mine, no more ribald tales.
You didn't care for my little gap.
No.
But you read about his exploits nonetheless.
Yes?
By candlelight, you licked the words off the paper. You rolled them around in your mouth. You swallowed. You succumbed.
My interests were professional, sir, not hurried.
Tell me, did you read every word? Did you run straight away to the dog-eared page?
Enough to discern the novel's tenor.
And
It stirred in me a most pressing desire.
to copulate?
To bathe. Everywhere. A compendium of perversity.
Surely if such phenomena exist in nature, then they're fair game in fiction.
You expect me to believe such atrocities occur?
We don't run in the same circles, do we, my cherub?
I work in math. Still, I have never seen anything such as you describe.
Oh, if they can be dreamt, they can be done.
Permit me for a moment to play the role of critic, dear Marquis. Morally, your story has a smug tone, condemning its principles while delighting in their misbehavior. It purports to advocate virtue while detailing vice, at best a wobbly proposition.
What should morality serve as a barometer? It's an entertainment, my sin, not a moral treatise.
But, in a world too often governed by man's fickle taste, morality is our only bedrock. It is the golden standard against which we are all judged.
That's preposterous. Morality is a mere convenience, nothing more.
Surely a man so often foul of the law is more cognizant of its boundaries.
There was a time, my love, when I was brought to trial for the depucelating of 7 very young girls. Mind you, all I did was spoon them diuretics. The other charges were as terrible. Nevertheless, I was sentenced to the Bastille. The judge of the case blamed my behavior on my noble birth. You aristocrats, he held, feasting on the helpless, nourishing your vices on the spoils of the poor. Soon the world will turn. When the Bastille was torn and liberated by the mob, they told me I was one of their own. Impoverished slave, they cried, puppet of the ruling class. Let us reward your suffering with freedom. Who I employ was right. The judge, the mob. One insisted I was the perpetrator, the other a victim. Each claimed it was a matter of moral principle. Whether this story is constant, some abstract morality applied to the tatters of my tiny life? I think not. Only me. Only me and those 7 little girls left to spend eternity evacuating in the loo.
You risk offending more than man. You risk offending God.
Oh, please.
Theologically, your story is utterly damning. Ganymede born of a union between 2 live celibates. His parents are more Dionysian than Catholic. They make a mockery of their chastity vows.
It's chastity vows that make a mockery of men. My uncle, the Abbé de Sade, was esteemed by his betters in the church, yet routinely he kept one trollop in the confessional, one in the sacristy, and one naked and squealing on the baptismal font. That way, between each Sunday's Mass, he could always have a ready sheath for his sword.
I fear, Marquis, that sacrilege comes as easily to you in conversation as it does upon the page.
An atheist cannot be sacrilegious. The word does not exist in his vocabulary. Sacrilege is the exclusive province of the devout.
Men like your uncle may fail the Bible, but that hardly merits dismissing its precepts.
No, my novel does not ascribe to the Bible's precepts, and therefore should not be held to them in her critique.
How then should I evaluate it? As political allegory, perhaps? All right. It's simplistic and it panders to popular sentiment. Ganymede as France, born the bastard child of the church, indulged by the decadent bourgeoisie, gorged on all manner of useless opulence until at last his own body revolts against him.
Where does the novel profess to be a political tract?
What then does it desire to be?
Literature, my pet!
Frankly, it fails even as an exercise in craft. Note the tireless repetition of the words nipple and pike staff.
There I was taxed, it's true.
The whole narrative is nothing but an exhaustive list of mayhem, some characters, some theme, and in such puny scope. Where are its heroes, its virtues and triumphs?
Must we record only those phenomena that ennoble us as creatures? What unites us, my precious? Common language, a universal God, shared codes of law and conduct? No. These vary from one population to the next. Fads and habits, nothing more. Did you know, heavenly man, that in France a husband with 6 wives would be executed, while in darkest Borneo that same man would be crowned king?
But surely there are heretics which exceed geometry.
Yes. A primal desire. That's unchanging. Every man from Paris to China feels the same urgent stirring in his loins.
Lust is our only denominator.
Of course not.
Well, pray tell, what other constants do you cite?
We eat, we shit, we kill, and we die.
Your selectivity confirms your contrary nature. We are also born, we fall in love, we give birth. May I suggest you endeavor to write a new novel which embraces those very
Man has already deluded himself into believing that those illusions underlie his life. Why does he need a novel to further them?
Not only would it prove more felicitous to its readers, but it might perform a cathartic function upon its author.
How so, Mike?
Well, it assuage your libertine dementia, your current prose only aggravates it.
If Mother Nature didn't want me to tickle my own fancy, she wouldn't have provided me with 2 industrious hands. You see, I write with one, leaving the other palm free to enjoy the fruits of the first.
He who lives in darkness cowers in the light, while he who lives in the sun radiates it. Step into the sun a while, Marquis.
Permit me to extend your metaphor.
Be my guest.
He who sits in the sun is often blinded by it. Then, vulnerable and incognizant, he is devoured by the forces of nature. Better to stare the fuckers in the face, yes.
And therein lies the path to happiness.
Therein lies survival.
I hope you won't be offended if I suggest, Marquis, that you reject happiness because you fear it is beyond your reach.
At last. My beguiling young fool, you are not the man to counsel me on happiness or its pursuit.
Why not? I am content.
Happiness for you, my little kumquat, is achieved through strict adhesion to society's mandates. Most men follow this hackneyed passage. Like eager children set loose on a scavenger hunt, where they dart about in search of the assigned bounds. Wives, offspring, handsome homes, gainful employment. And when they've accrued them all, voila! The promised treasure is won. Happiness ensues. But happiness for me springs from a different cause.
Which is?
Dislike from social office. Shatter false conventions. And become one with nature's Cimmerian tide, where only the ruthless excel, and where brute force shields its own treasure. Past etiquette, past decency, past morals. That's where true happiness lies. Like the winking chasm buried deep within the briars of a woman's groin.
It's true, is it not, Marquis, that most of your adult life has been spent in prison?
My past addresses read like a primer in crime. Vincennes, the Madeleine, Saint-Lazare, the Bastille.
And it was in such a milieu you first wielded your pen?
Hell itself was the crucible in which I forged my craft. From the citadel of Pincus, I see the gallows below. Day after day during the terror, I watched the endless procession to the chopping block. Heads like champagne corks flying. My only music was the sound of grief. Its melody, the wretched cry of widows and orphan children. Its percussion, the steady rhythm of the falling blade. At its base, the thud as the cadavers rolled down the bank into the pit below. Blood flowed in rivers beneath my window.
Perhaps it's best not to extrapolate man's character from such surroundings.
Where better? They are stripped of all postures. Man's true self surges to the fore.
You have left me no choice. I'm afraid I must confiscate your papers and your quills.
What?
You heard me.
But they're all I have.
We cure the drunkard by seizing his liquor. We cure the glutton by absconding with his meal. We cure the rapist by castration.
I can weapon your abuse, but spare me this.
We must assuage these perverse fantasies.
Don't you agree that my only salvation is to vent them on paper?
Have you tried reading to pass the hour? A writer who produces more than he reads, the sure mark of an amateur.
My writing is involuntary, like the beating of my heart. My constant erection. I can't help it.
And we shall stop it for you.
Why? Because I don't cater to the moment's tastes.
Because your novels are a symptom of your insanity.
On the contrary, they keep me sane.
I am sorry. Truly.
All right. Dainty stories then. Odes to virtue.
I'll have Balfour collect the other items in question.
What did my faithful read?
You have written enough for one night.
What did the little seamstress?
You'll do well to steer clear of your influence.
I have a proposition.
You always do.
She's a luscious morsel, Madeline. What pulsates beneath those skirts is worth suckling. I'm certain I can convince her of the benefits inherent in granting favors to a superior.
I don't know who you insult more, me or her.
Then mother me!
Don't make me ill.
You could plunder every pore and love my mouth besides anything.
Good day, monsieur.
Oh, Cupid, my little meat.
Yes.
Where there's a will, there's a way. The maniac is matched